Hello, everyone. This is Geo-Politicus podcast. Uh, we are on the air Wednesdays. Today, a little bit changes. Yami Urmishvili is traveling. Unfortunately, she cannot participate today, but Georgi Katerova is here, and I I will try to be his sounding board together with our viewers. Georgi, situation in the world and is changing every day, drastically changing. And but we are trying to look at it at perspective of other side of ocean, perspective of our region, Caucasus region, and of course our country of Georgia. So look from here. What is main things today?
First of
Main topic.
all, good afternoon, Tornike. I would like to greet you as well, and I would like to greet our distinguished audience and ask them to like and subscribe to our channel. We speak very interesting stuff here. Yeah, you are right. We're definitely living in a not only very turbulent times, but we're living in the times when these developments are also happening very quickly. And every day we have news, sometimes good news, sometimes not very much so. But yeah, we have to look at them from different perspectives. And in this case, you're right. Probably it seems to us that we have to step back a little bit and look at the events unfolding from this side of Atlantic. And yeah, and the picture is not very bright, I would say, to be very honest. I don't like to speak about certain things in a dramatic way, but there are certain issues that we have to touch upon and just to try to analyze or try to bring our vision to our viewers and whoever is interested in them. That what I see here, just to generalize the situation, is that a huge degree of uncertainty in relation to the international affairs, international security, as well as, generally speaking, international system. And first ever time, I would say that this uncertainty comes from the position related to the U.S.
Yeah, it's
And
very
that's
strange because
what
before
it is
United
very.
States was the guarantee stability and like a rock,
Yes, and
founding
we
rock. And now,
yes, and the foreign policy of the United States was always very predictable, very firm, and therefore very stable, and that assured actually balance in all parts of the globe in terms of the international security, international relations, and relations between different parts of the world and different systems, I would say. Now this balance is not totally absent, but it is slowly but surely fading away. Why I'm saying that? Because uh, obviously, for sure, we have to speak about recent visits of the high officials from the United States, mainly Vice President and the Secretary of Defense to Europe. The statements of President of the United States, Donald Trump, about European security and everything that is basically happening on this continent. And I would say that there is a very growing feeling over here that United States is totally militarily speaking is withdrawing slowly from the continent and handing over
here
the
is my question:
the
is it
issues
so,
related
or
to.
it is our imagination? Is it really proven by actions that he is withdrawing?
Well, 2 days ago we've seen the closure of a small but still military base in Greece, in Alexandropoli, and withdrawal of U.S. troops from there. As far as I understand, there are some plans to cut the expenses of the Department of Defense, meaning to bring soldiers back to back home to the American soil. That obviously means, and to relocate some of the assets, military assets from Europe to Asia. That was declared. So that's why I'm saying that slowly but surely, and Europeans were told in Munich that security guarantees that were given to the continent uh, for the last 80 years, these should be transferred on the shoulders of the European allies. So then the question is also what will happen to NATO, because that was the main role of NATO in Europe, to keep stability and security in the continent, and Article 5 that was actually assuring that all the allies will be helping each other in times and if there will be an attack on one of the members. So it means that effectively NATO will be very much weakened on European continent with the withdrawal of United States military from this territory. Well, we know that Europe is prosperous and big, entity, I would say, collectively, and there are resources, ways and means, as well as technologies, etc., to assure the security of the continent. But we have to understand, in times when we are talking about, about the quick developments, and we're facing them. I think the withdrawal of United States will for sure leave a small, maybe big, but whatever gap, which is vacuum, the power vacuum in Europe, somehow that can be used by some outside players, like, for example, Russian Federation, and maybe more. Maybe it can be used also by China. So, this is hypothetically speaking, but we also see that the European, players have been gathered twice already in France under the auspices and an invitation of President Macron to speak about it, to discuss this issue. So, at the end of the first day, they already found around 600 billion euros to be invested in the security and safety of the continent. But whether it is enough, and how long it will take to spend this money, how long it will take to produce weapons, how long it will take to develop new regiments, or simply grow the army, and to enter a completely different security environment prepared. So that will take some time. And on top of that, we're also talking about the period of time in the history where we have a massive and a big scale continental war of Russia against Ukraine. So all these factors are giving us basically an opportunity to draw a pretty much grim picture that we see in European continent, which for many decades have been very prosperous and very peaceful, just because the issue related to the continental security was actually solved with the help, and mainly with the help of the United States. So basically, and I would say that these words are echoed today for me. I was listening to the statement of Mr. Lavrov, that actually today stated that Russia won't stop at the current line, the front line.
Georgi, let me
means
interrupt you for a while.
yes,
Before we are going to speaking about Lavrov, what we have latest today, it is meeting of French President Macron and President Trump, and then President Trump's first uh, meeting with his government, with his cabinet. So
yes.
these two things show some changes in the situation, or it is the proven of what you are saying before.
Well, actually, let's start from the meeting of Mr. Trump and President Macron. That meeting was interesting, not only as a substance and the word that was used, but also the body language was very interesting during the conversation that we have seen. Um, and I would say that not many things were resolved. There is probably some sort of understanding of problems that Europe is facing, and I think what was discussed also um, um, probably the issue of talking with the Russians without Europeans and also without Ukrainians at the table, at the negotiation table, which is not very nice, to be honest, because we're talking about the ally nations to the United States, and we're talking about Ukraine is actually a victim of Russian aggression. And I think that's why the leadership from the side of the Mr. Macron that visited Washington basically was evident. He was mainly speaking uh, as a leader of Europe, and I think he was also expressing certain concerns, whereas also he provided some comments related to the assistance that Europe was providing throughout these last 3 years to Ukraine, which constitutes to 60% of overall help to Ukraine was actually provided by Europe. I mean, EU member states. So, and I think the Europe has a leverage, and I think Europe deserves seat at the table of the negotiations. When it comes to the statement made also by President Trump during today's cabinet meeting, also he confirmed what I already mentioned before, that United States will not provide security guarantees to Ukraine after the truth will be reached between the parties. But what I was referring to when I was talking about the statement of Mr. Lavrov, the statement of Mr. Lavrov that they will not agree on, truth, uh, uh, you know, on the current front line. That brings me to a conclusion, or not conclusion, but brings me to a thought that maybe Russia is actually not ready for truth. Maybe they're not ready for any kind of settlement of the of this situation. Maybe they're not ready for ceasefire, and they don't
Yeah,
want this process.
the question is, some saying that all these rhetorics, all these dances, political actions are for to show that Russia is not ready, and because of Russia there will not be ceasefire and peace talk.
Yeah,
Is that so?
yeah, yeah. I think the statement of Mr. Lavrov, the last statement that I was just talking about, shows us that there is definitely some room for this kind of thoughts. Why? Because if a party, which is Ukraine in this case, states openly that they are ready to negotiate the truth, I mean, meaning the to stop the fire on the front line and start sort of settlement process. And in this case, Mr. Lavrov said, no, 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 we're not ready to stop now. We have some other objectives to be reached. What is the objective? To destroy the Ukrainian statehood altogether, or to conquer the rest of the country, or what? That is gives us the room for maybe speculations, but these speculations are based on something very real, because there is no sign that Russia is willing to negotiate in a good faith um, the truth. And this is a very much worrisome situation for everyone, because that actually brings more and more uncertainty to the given situation, because obviously nobody is disclosing the nature of the negotiations in El Riyadh last week because of understandable reasons. It's too early to say something about it. But the behavior of one side is absolutely unpredictable. And this unpredictability in times when also we have United States that is declaratively willing to basically stop maybe the assistance to Ukraine on the one hand. On the other hand, we have Europe that is not very much yet ready to basically take over all the security obligations to to assure the security of the continent in general, and also assistance to Ukraine. That brings us to a conclusion that we are in a very vulnerable situation for all the parties. Basically, it's uncertainty and vulnerability in terms of security. And that's why I would say that the statement of Mr. Merz, who is the winning leader of, who is the leader of the winning party in the last parliamentary elections in Germany, who stated that after he become a chancellor, he will be officially asking France to include Germany under the French nuclear umbrella, which means that some nuclear assets of France have to be moved to Germany. Of course, we have another nuclear power in Europe, which is Great Britain, but British nuclear weapons are under the command and control of NATO forces. That's why, German incoming, let's say, chancellor was referring to French nuclear arsenal. So, and this uncertainty actually that is on the air. I mean, we can feel it, we can smell it. Brings us to a very dire conclusions that nothing is decided, and that as we speak, all these very active political consultations from both sides of the Atlantic are actually very relevant, because the situation is really, full of questions with no answers, I would say.
Georgi, what a couple of words about this agreement between United States and Ukraine. And you mentioned already that President Trump says there is no guarantee for security of Ukraine, but the agreement itself, how much it is a guarantee, this economical part, and what is the development of President Zelensky's supposed visit on Friday or on 28th of February? How do you see all the situation?
Well, basically, I see on the one hand very, very positively, because as was reported already from yesterday, this deal, the draft of the document, was dramatically improved for the last 10 years, probably.
So
That
is it
envisages
changed?
it is changed. It is changed dramatically. So now it is. I mean, we know only some,
Yes.
framework type of information about the agreement. But the main points here are that there will be a fund established, Ukrainian/American fund jointly, with joint management. So the investors that will be willing and will be involved in the extraction of rare earth minerals, some other minerals that are actually mentioned, that it is not only about the rare earth minerals, or gas or oil, or coal or titanium or some titanium or something else. Um, will be contributing 50% of their profit to the fund, and the management of the fund will be 50-50 split between Ukraine and the United States, um, governed, meaning.
But
So
this fund is for developing Ukraine, investment
this
in
is
Ukraine. Yes.
this money then, when they will be actually extracted from the businesses, and business will supply it back to the fund. The fund will be reinvesting this money into the economic development of Ukraine. So this is basically a fund of revival, economic revival of Ukraine, after the ceasefire will be reached, and some peaceful environment will be possible. Well, by itself, I would say, Tornike, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, this kind of deal and existence or involvement of the United States companies and some other companies, because President Zelensky, in his very long press briefing, they said that the companies of those countries who were actively helping Ukraine during these 3 years of war will be allowed to participate in reconstruction works in Ukraine, and for that matter, in the investment opportunities, right? Uh, so basically, existence of uh, let's say Western investors, like from the Western Europe and from the United States, uh, by itself cannot assure the security guarantee per se. I'm very much sure about it. It's certainly my position. I don't want to school anyone on that, but this is in my opinion, undeniable truth. Um, but what is possible, and President Trump also mentioned it today, that Europe has assured the security guarantees to Ukraine. But let's face it, if
Mhm.
we're talking about um, some sort of deal between Russia and Ukraine, with assistance of of heavy involvement, I would say, of the United States, uh, regarding the ceasefire agreement as the first step, right, to some sort of settlement of the war. Uh, is Europe ready now to step in with its troops? I mean, with a quite sizable contingent, because we're talking about 1,300-kilometer line, I mean, front line, which has to be controlled somehow, right? So for that reason, you need, tens of thousands of troops, if not hundreds of thousands of troops, to be stationed permanently in Ukraine, right? So is Europe ready for that? I don't think so. Uh,
Georgi, what their initiative to send troops to Ukraine? Why they need to talk about this with Trump, President Trump? Do they need his support or permission, or what? What they are
no,
looking for?
because because taking into account the current state of affairs globally, only the United States is the only power, military and politically speaking, and economically, of course, that is capable of fulfilling this work, this job, I would say. None of other individually or collectively can do that. Maybe there is a willingness, like Prime Minister Starmer of the UK recently stated that he is willing to send, let's say, 10,000 British soldiers to Ukraine in the case the peacekeeping or peace building operation will be announced. But we are talking about hundreds of thousands that are needed. And 10,000, although important, is way less than the needs on the ground. So we are talking about really probably 150, maybe 200,000 troops that will be needed. It's not my assessment, as that's what our well-known military experts are actually announcing and analyzing the situation. So that's why I'm saying, Europe is caught in the situation where it is willing, it has financial means to provide this kind of operations, but it doesn't have enough boots in barracks. Maybe they can produce equipment, they can produce tanks, they can produce airplanes, they can produce artillery, shells, etc., and many other assets, military assets. But what is needed is a human capacity to be present physically on the front line. So that is the problem, I think, and that's why I said that withdrawal of United States from this whole thing will create a vacuum that can be filled by others, unfortunately. So this is the dilemma that Europe is facing, and I think this is the main reason why Mr. Macron was visiting Washington, D.C. and meeting President Trump. That's why Prime Minister Starmer is soon arriving to have a meeting with President Trump, as well as probably some other high-level contacts might be already in place among the European countries, just to understand how Europe can deal with this, because notwithstanding all the financial resources that Europe has, as well as technologies, there are some things that they will need to add, and it is very difficult to do it very quickly, and that creates numerous problems, as you can imagine.
One more question, more our local problem, Georgian problem. In this deal between Ukraine and the United States, they said that countries that don't help Ukraine in this war, they will not benefit from this deal. What about Georgia?
Well, Georgia provided some humanitarian assistance.
But we also refuse to participate in
the government. No. We are talking about government of Georgia, right? First, let's talk about government. Government provided some humanitarian assistance. On top of it, formally, Georgian government was participating in the Ramstein format.
No, okay.
So that makes Georgia part of pro-Ukrainian coalition, on the one hand. On the other hand, and probably many people who are interested really in current situation in Ukraine know that by absolute numbers, um, volunteers from Georgia are far exceeding, I mean, military volunteers, uh, the people who are fighting on the front. Uh, Georgia and Georgian nationals are far exceeding anyone else from the international community who are fighting for Ukraine. And unfortunately, the death rate is also the highest among international fighters. Plus, I would say that first year and a half uh, of this war, Georgian public was collecting the humanitarian aid and sending it by airplanes to Poland. And by sheer volume of the humanitarian aid, at that time, Georgia was number one country providing assistance to Ukraine. So, and Georgia as a nation is fully heartedly supports Ukraine in its struggle. And I don't know, I was not thinking about whether Georgia companies will be allowed to participate in any sort of
Yeah.
reconstruction works. I don't think about it because this is not important for me. What is important for me is that Ukraine is restored and the peaceful life is restored in Ukraine, and the people of Ukraine are living their peaceful lives and not afraid of drone attacks or missile attacks every night and every day, and people are not dying on the battlefields. So that is important.
Thank you, Georgi. Is there anything else you want to add to today's
No,
conversation?
I actually that was my main actually topics that I wanted to cover today because, as you said, every day we have new information, new statements, new meetings, new developments, I would say, and as I said, some of them are very good, some of them are very disturbing, and I would keep an eye very closely on the
Let's
what
see
is
what
going
kind of
on.
development will be, and we'll be on air after 1 week next Wednesday. Let's see what will happen. Yeah.
Well, we will be on the air next week, but I think what we should expect, first of all, I would look very closely to the visit of Prime Minister Summer
Hmm.
to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
What outcomes will be actually announced or aired after the meeting with President Trump. Second is the big issue, I would say, will be the visit of Ukrainian delegation and uh, President Zelensky
Is
and
it
meeting
true or
both.
fact that President Zelensky is
Well,
traveling to
actually,
Washington?
as I read today, President Zelensky said that yes, he is invited
Yeah.
to Washington, and but he was not definite in his answer whether he will be attending the signature of this deal
Okay.
on minerals or not. I would say this is a high time for also President Zelensky to have another confidential and bilateral meeting with President Trump because
Don't you think
you
that
know
it is very important for them to have this face-to-face meeting?
I think so. Yes, that's why I'm saying that I would love to have President Zelensky. I would like to see President Zelensky visiting Washington D.C. and meeting President Trump because in this bilateral meeting they can actually define many things. They can clarify certain things to each other first of all, and for their respective nations, and it will be only beneficial for the whole situation that um, world affairs are right now because I think there is no more important issue than the situation in Ukraine, and actually there is no more important, I would say, country in the world than the United States that can define, um, for good or for bad, the fate of this planet. So therefore, I would like to see him meeting see President Zelensky meeting President Trump and discussing uh, not easy issues, but it is necessary for
necessary.
everybody to see these two leaders
Agree.
talking to each other. And I would say that in general, I would also look very closely at the internal consultations between the European leaders about joint response to the security challenges that the continent will be facing. And as far as I understand, these consultations are very much active, and we should be positive about future developments in this regard. Although, as I said, there is certain time limitations imposed, but also we also have to mention here as a kind of a criticism that Europe had enough time for the last at least 3 years
Yeah,
to envisage these developments and start to think about those things that they are facing today a bit earlier. So it would be much more relief for everyone, but it didn't happen. So now they put themselves in a very difficult situation, and I would like to express my hope that they will manage this situation quite well.
let's have a hope. Thank you, Georgi. Thank you, everybody.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, our viewers. Put likes and help us develop this podcast. And see you later.
Goodbye, and goodbye to our viewers.